Welcome to the usability meeting on April the 3rd, 2026. The attendees are Nick, Simo Helston, Thomas Howell, and myself, Rolf Koller. And we've agreed on to take a brief look and revisiting the issue number 2860419. It's a meta issue about appearance page is too long and confusing. It's an issue we've talked in this group a few months or already years ago repeatedly, and we wanted to bring Nick up to speed and provide a brief overview, and afterwards we take a look at another issue. Yeah, looking at the issue, it provides basically a brief summary. It's at the moment, if we take a look, for example, I'm switching over currently in Chin. You basically have that installed themes section, and then you have the uninstalled themes, and underneath you have basically the form where you choose the administration theme. And at the moment, it's still possible to have more than one, I think, admin theme even, and also more themes. And yeah, that general problem was basically that is something I struggled with a long time when I got into Drupal. I've installed a module, and then if it's installed and in the phrasing was confusing about the state because you just already installed something by requiring it, and then you install it again. And then it's also the cognitive load basically to understand which which theme is basically the default theme, which is the admin theme. The default theme is basically for the front end. The admin theme is underneath, and then the information is crammed basically in the theme title, and it is not clear with a brief look, which is basically currently the default theme, which is basically on one look, which is this admin theme, and the cards are also confusing. And basically, if you take a look at the appearance page, we have um, several child issues. Yeah, move the
Yeah. So that first one actually feels pretty straightforward. So it sounds like it's just moving the default theme to the top left in its own section, the
yeah
admin theme to the top left in its own section, top right in its own section.
yeah. It's basically like shown in
Yeah.
the proposed resolution that you basically on one look directly see this is the default theme, this is the admin theme, and that way you
And
basically
you don't
pull
duplicate it in the installed. Like if it's in
exactly.
those, okay. That actually feels pretty easy. And that feels like a pretty clear
Yeah.
win. Why is this in the just trying to think of whether I should move this to the extension system or not, because it is kind of the theme system, but also, yeah, I think that's actually pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But that way, for example, in the example from last week's where you showed your screen with many test themes installed as well, and it's
Yeah,
like searching the needle in the haystack for finding which is the default theme, which is the admin theme, and it's close to impossible that way.
yep, I agree.
Um, the next one is basically redesign the cards. Um, as you can see here, at the moment you have the version number, the name, and so forth. And the suggestion was basically have just the name, then the description underneath the version, and use some sort of chip design where you basically label which is experimental, what is a sub theme, what is a core theme, what is basically a contrib theme. And that way
Okay.
you have you can quickly grasp the important attributes of the different themes.
One quick question about this one though. Um, I would imagine that we would want these to be over here though, right? Just so it's A little bit
One
more
second.
visible. Oh, we have the settings and default, so maybe not.
That's something I linked to that chat. There is that
Oh,
open issue about modules page, and one of the things that is one of the suggestions there is to have drop button instead of the, because currently modules have this similar kind of individual buttons or those links.
yeah.
Look are styled similarly to themes, like their help and configure. You can see.
Oh, that's funny. I literally read this issue last night.
So with that option 5, the
Yeah.
idea is to have a,
Five. Ah, there. Okay.
yeah, to have those operations under one button, and then there is enough space to have a more kind of
Yeah.
Yeah.
but this is not so nice for themes, of course, because with themes we would like
Yeah,
to
the
what it looks
thumbnail.
like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for the record, it's issue number 2035079, and Simo was referring to option 5 in the issue summary we are looking at right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I was reading this last night, trying to I was just reviewing the postponed issues in my subsystem. Okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah. I don't know if that works on the theme side though, because we can't really do I guess we could do a table or something. This is far future, but I guess we could do a table so it's a little bit more compact and then have a way to like show the thumbnail. The thumbnail feels like the piece that makes this complex and feel overwhelming, right? But I don't know that getting rid of the thumbnail is a solution either. Um, the truth is, most of the themes that I do for clients don't have a thumbnail because it's a custom theme just for them, and they're not ever changing it. But I feel like for core theme, you do want to have like a quick overview of what it looks like.
um, out of curiosity, if you don't provide a thumbnail, what is shown there instead? Is there a sort of generic icon or is it just empty?
I don't recall. If you turn on um, test theme um,
I would
discovery, it will show you, or I can check
Uh,
really quick.
uh,
Oh, that's funny. I do have a.
could you remind me quickly how to re-enable test themes? Because
Yeah, it's in the settings.php.
okay, where's the VS Code?
And
Um,
then
websites,
um,
defaults, settings, PHP. Yeah.
and it is called. I'm just looking for it myself. Where is it? Oh, it was in the wrong settings.php myself. Extension discovery scan test true. I can put it in the chat. You just put that in there.
Okay. And Thomas raised his hand.
So this is a little bit out of date because I don't build as many sites as I used to. But as a non-theme builder, one of the things that I found myself for essentially low budget projects is I just load a ton of different themes trying to figure out what could even work because they can be so different from one another in terms of the assumptions they make and what they bring to the table. And so having a large list of things that are installed and uninstalled definitely became very messy. And I just wanted to offer that as a counterpoint to what Nick was saying, because I totally understand in an enterprise setting, you're not likely to have a ton of themes, even in the code base, let alone installed. But I think for smaller budget or no budget projects, people who are using this, especially non-themers, just pure site builders, is where this UI absolutely becomes overwhelming
Mm.
and it's difficult to maintain and figure out what's there. And if you've got more than one maintainer, there's no way to differentiate or even say, hey, this is our preferred theme or this is the theme we've done something with. Like it's just it is not self-documenting in a way that I think would really be helpful. And the thumbnails are very much needed, so I would hate to see them go. But yeah, I think this is tricky. I don't know if throwing it in a table is easily said and done. But yeah, I just wanted to share that. I don't have a strong opinion with other than that.
Okay.
I think one option is to look at the media browser, because there we have an option to switch between grid and table.
Yeah.
And they have, of course, thumbnails.
Oh, that's a good idea. So we could just make the thumbnail smaller, and then if you need to see it, you can. I mean, it feels to me like creating the two new sections, the default and admin, are pretty big wins and pretty easy. So I can start with that issue, and then yeah, I can see why the other part, and that doesn't seem like it needs design. Oh wait, it is marked as needs design. Um,
Um,
I don't know
just
if I
one.
agree with that tag,
No,
but
the needs design bit is basically about those chips. The chips design needs basically design input. That is the reason why the needs
uh,
design tag is on.
that I'm looking at the other issue though, the one that doesn't have.
Oh,
I'm
that
looking at
one?
just the first issue we talked about. Yeah, this one is tagged with needs design, but that doesn't seem correct.
Oh,
I'm going to take that tag off.
who put it on? 1 second.
I don't. I think it was there originally because I don't see somebody adding it. I think you might have put it on because you created
What?
the issue.
Oh no, oh, it was Aaron.
Oh, I see it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I don't have a problem removing it. I'll leave a comment.
Oh, I think it was because of the question of the point that you could also have the case that the theme that is used for the front end and the back end is the same. For that basically edge case that you use the same theme for both
Uh,
contexts, and that way it would need a design. That was the background for that, adding the tag. Now I remember.
I mean, okay.
But yeah, it's a real rough edge case and far out, and just taking into consideration that in recent days the admin theme got renamed to default admin, and now
Yeah.
there should be only one admin theme. It looks like the consensus is that there won't be the case that you have an admin theme used also in the front end. So
Yeah.
maybe unlikely. But just for the background,
Makes
that
sense.
was the reasoning. And just one mm, comment from my perspective. For one, that table and grid switch is basically also something that is considered for Project Browser. And therefore, it probably would also make sense to have it for the appearance. Um, and the one thing I really wonder why it's impossible to add basically a simple screenshot to a custom theme as well, because it's just opening the front page in the theme, take a screenshot and add it to your theme. So it's no rocket science. And therefore, I think in the context of themes, and if you take in consideration that approach with table and grid, it totally makes sense to have that preview to provide some sort of impression how a theme looks like for someone downloading it, for example. And on the other hand, if you switch to the table, I'm not sure it is necessary to display those basically thumbnails. That is for people that know what the names are and what each name stands for, what style of theme. And therefore, I think there it's just about comparability between the rows, and therefore screenshots would be counterproductive from my perspective. But that's my personal opinion. But yeah, different purpose between the card view in grid and a table.
Okay.
Yeah, that was basically a redesign for the cards. Next one was make. Yep. That issue is basically about remove the section at the bottom, that form, and make it also possible not only to set the default theme, but also to set the admin theme, and to handle it the following way. Basically, use the administration theme when editing or creating content and add the checkbox underneath that section was the idea. And also for the set as default, set as admin, yeah, use drop buttons there. Same as Simo suggested with the modules.
How do you submit that? Because right now those are just links. So you click on it, the thing happens. But if it's a drop down, you can't, like, if you click it and select something else, something changes. But it's a little weird to have to click. Like, if you want to set something to default, which is like the default dropped, is it just like a drop button then? And that's
Yeah,
just showing it as oh,
it's a
okay.
drop
Yeah.
button.
Okay. That makes sense.
But yeah,
I mean that feels like a bigger lift, but
yeah,
and a little bit harder, a little bit of a harder interaction, but we do use it elsewhere. So
yeah. The tricky part is definitely not the default theme, but for the admin theme. Basically, the theme that you're currently using, and then installing something else and make that the default admin, then that might be more tricky from a technical perspective. But yeah, as Benji said last time, we just proposed basically what might
yeah,
work out from a
yeah,
usability perspective, not from the technical. So
yep, that makes sense.
um, that was that one. Uh, the
This
next
one might be
one.
outdated with the new admin theme too.
Yeah, but it's still, there will be themes that could be used as admin themes. So
Yeah,
yeah, Simo.
With those drop buttons, I think one of the things that needs a bit of a thought is which is the default options there. So for uninstall theme, it would make sense to have install as default, but it wouldn't make sense to have uninstall as default. So then it would be settings or something like that. So
Yep.
thinking about, did we already discuss about that before?
I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, I'm thinking about the modules page. I think there we had some ideas. So if it would be defaults would be install for uninstalled, and then for installed theme it would be settings or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, but in the context of the theme page, that is not in those, basically in that mock-ups, there's not just a single drop button, but you still have several alongside. You have basically the settings button that's set as default and the uninstall in that case, or you have the settings and set as default for the default theme and admin theme. So it differs. But I guess we would have to revisit those as soon as work starts in those issues.
yeah,
Yeah, it is That is the state of the discussion from when was the last time we discussed it in 4 years ago, so around 9.4. But yeah, definitely agree with Simo. We should make it then consistent. And the next issue is basically alongside the design part with basically those chips that you basically define on a theme level, if a theme indicating if it's a front-end theme and or an admin theme to indicate that. We had a duplicate issue that we've created, but Laurie also created that one, and we closed the other one for that. So, but basically to identify on a theme level what a theme is for, that is basically not directly apparent. That one. Yeah, that was, yeah. Those are all additional issues that got added afterwards,
Okay.
but the ones we initially created in the context of our discussions here for this issue and create those follow-ups that were the ones we've touched first. It's basically, yeah, those sections up here, redesigning the cards and yeah, remove that form underneath. And basically, yeah, identify the theme. The purpose of the theme is if it's just for front end or just for admin or for both.
Okay. I think that makes sense too.
Yep. So that's the brief overview. Any additional questions or or ideas?
That's a great overview. Thank you. I'll see where I can take it.
Cool. Thank you. And then I close all those. Okay, and should we move over to either the improve visibility of more actions menu or the inform administrators that clearing an email body on account settings will disable that email? This one is more concise and shorter.
Okay. Yeah, there's no screenshots though for this one.
I've applied it already and
okay.
Could demonstrate it quickly.
Yeah, let's do that then. Do you want to read the issue number?
Yep. Thanks. Okay, next issue is issue number 3580.795. Inform administrators that clearing an email body on account settings will disable that email. And what this issue does is basically the following. If you go under people and account settings and scroll down, you have basically those vertical tabs here. And what it does is basically adding that description underneath, removing all text from the body of an email will disable that email from being sent. That is basically what is getting added here.
Sorry, I can't. Where is it?
I'm wondering, do we have any idea do you have idea whether if there is a blank translation, but another language has the text? Do you know how it works then?
How do you mean?
Those emails are translatable with correct checkboxes checked. So if there is email, the text for the email in one language, but it's missing, it's blank it has a blank translation.
Yeah, will the email still be sent, but just in the other language? I guess is the question. Or will it just not send for that language? I don't know the answer to that. That's a good question.
Yeah, a good
Yeah.
question, definitely.
That would be useful information to include in the message, or in the if that's a warning or just a description.
Or basically also check in the first place on a code level how Drupal would behave in cases like that.
Yep.
And in the test, like if you test it, then it's two use cases. One of the use cases is where the body of the default language is empty and there exists translation, and then where the body exists for default language, but the translation is empty. So those kind of a mixed cases.
That's a very good point. I don't know. But I guess, yeah, we could ask on the issue in that regard. Um, Anything else?
I mean, it feels a little weird that it's at the bottom. It
Yeah.
feels like I don't know where it would go, go. Um, but it doesn't necessarily feel like it's attached to anything. And I understand why they put it there because there's like five or six, I don't know, seven emails here. And they want to apply it to each of them, I imagine. But I don't know if it maybe it should go above, or maybe it should go under each form if it's empty. It's like a warning. I don't know.
In that context, I have a similar concern because basically you have it left aligned, and when you read, basically when you're in that welcome new user create by administrator and read in there, then you are in here and expected basically in proximity and context also with the same alignment. But in here underneath, it feels detached and not belonging there. And there's another problem basically. If you're in here, there's no body of an email yet. You have to basically enable it, and therefore it's also imprecise because in that context it shouldn't be shown.
Yeah.
It's more of an accessibility issue, but it to have that in the area described by for the body field would make sense. So that is
Yeah,
programmatically connected.
Yep. 1 second, I make a few notes. And it also, from a visual standpoint, now looking at it this here, it looks also odd. If you in here have content, you have that large gap, while if you're in here, it's basically close aligned to that vertical tab as well. And yeah,
This is my least favorite kind of usability issue because not having that text is clearly a problem, right? We need to have something,
Yeah.
but also where it is, like I hate to kick these kinds of issues back, but yeah, I think we clearly need some updates. But it also is a very good spot. Like it's very like a very good it's something that he noted. It's good that he noticed it, right? It is an issue that we don't notify the person what happens if
Yep.
you delete the body. But
Yeah, but as Simo said, it has to be in context, and down here, let's take a look at the if it's some sort associated. It's an ID there, but no. There's no area described by. No. Is there anything else to note? Or are the 2 points basically the one Simo mentioned in regards to how multilingual, the question how multilingual is handled in case one language is missing a translation and has an empty body while the other has a body? And also the question, should there then be some sort of warning as soon as the translation state differs in that particular case? Would it make sense to have some sort of, a reminder for the site builder, hey, there needs to be a translation for the other translation on that field as well? Something like that. Would that make sense?
I don't have anything else.
Okay.
I think if we are having a site with maybe 4 languages, then it gets complicated to have a warning if one of them is missing, but 3 of them have text.
Okay. So in summary, basically, it's that multilingual question that should be answered, and then I guess do we have some sort of consensus that basically the text description would have to be moved within those vertical tabs underneath, so it's basically in context?
Yeah, I think so. And I think we also would want to make it so that it only shows up if it's emptied.
Yeah. So, or basically it shows up when it's the 2 conditions are only show up when it's empty. It is empty and when a body field is visible. So in cases like, where is it? In cases like that, it is hidden as well.
Yeah. Yep. Makes sense to me.
Okay. And Simo and Thomas, you agree?
Yes, I do. I don't have strong opinions on this particular issue, so I think that the pretty much what everyone's been saying makes sense to me. So thank you.
Okay. Then, yeah, then that issue should be done. Then we could basically, maybe we have 20 minutes left, take initial first look at the other issue. But my gut feeling is we might revisit it in the next meeting, maybe, or one of the next meetings. It's basically improve visibility of more actions menu button. It's issue number 3540337. Problem in here is basically, if you take a look and go, for example, to edit, is the visibility of that button up here. The affordance of that toggle switch for the advanced sidebar has a way higher affordance, and on here we are currently on a 16-inch screen, but on my main screen I have a 36-inch, and if I usually have the display tracked, and that way the area of focus is well, let's slightly, one second. My usual size is the following. You have basically the node edit form in the center of the screen, and then you go over. And for me, it's basically out of sight, out of mind. I always miss and forget that there is basically a context menu. And the other problem, aside the visibility of the button, I consider even more pressing, is basically that it's called more actions button. And in here, all those are basically links to what you usually have as local tasks. And those local tasks got removed in the context of basically the front end to minimize problems in regard of theming. But in the back end for the admin theme, I consider it counterproductive, because in here, to me, those tabs, the chin tab styling aside, but tabs usually provide some sort of anchors and provide some sort of structure within a page if it has sub-elements, and with that, it is completely basically missing here that structure. And from my perspective, I would move basically all those tabs, all those are local tasks in the admin UI. I would show those local tasks again and minimize that, and reserve the more actions button for basically actual CTAs and not links for navigation. And the other problem here is you have basically a homogeneous list of options that is you have to read and you have to process, and you have to hope that basically the order doesn't change, and it's problematic from my perspective. And at the same time, the proposed resolution for this issue also recommends basically, where is the screenshot? Yeah, increasing the size of those dots at least. So for cases where the more actions are needed, that those dots are basically visible. So it's a twofold problem here. Any questions?
I'm thinking that to increase visibility, one option would be to put the dots inside a container so that it looks like a button. But I'm thinking one of the kind of if we want to think about a compromises, it would be possible to make it kind of a collapsible so that it would expand horizontally, and then it could be collapsed, but it might be difficult with a lot of items. Like if we have translations and some custom tasks as well, but kind of to have it so that you could kind of expand it horizontally, that could be an option, but it's not kind of not good for all cases. But because I've used Drupal for quite a while, I'm so used to seeing those options also to see the status of the document, if it's or if it's translatable, if it has some features available, that content type. But to have it configurable would be nice.
What do you mean with configurable?
So that you could have it show them at all times. So to have it kind of expanded into the top bar. Similar it has in the current, like in Claro and stuff, we have the tabs. So to show them as tabs, or
Yes,
not as tabs, but
local tasks.
yeah.
Because at the moment it's basically broken for, not broken, but changed for nodes, as well as if you go to edit profile, there you have the same, where basically the local tasks moved into the more actions. There's this basically the same case. But yeah, but still the bigger problem also for me is also the distance on if you have a screen, a wider screen, and the window is dragged wide, then you have to go to the upper right corner of the page to get basically A, your focus there, as well as B, your interaction method. Like for example, if you have a pointer device or a mouse, it's a long way there. And I'm not sure if that's the ideal case. Plus, at the moment, there are no hotkeys, for example, to quickly reach, for example, the expansion, or oh, that is even empty. That is also odd. Oh, it is kept consistent with content entities, but for user entities, there is no advanced sidebar. That's odd. But still, yeah. Hmm. And in regards of configuration, where would something like that go under user interface and navigation settings then? At the moment, you only have the logo options there.
I think I'd put it under theme settings so that it would be like global for the theme.
Yeah, but the setting responsible for moving those local tasks into the more actions is basically the navigation module.
Yeah.
That way,
Yeah, it's yeah, I see.
not sure where to expect it. And not sure if I would go to the theme settings for changing the behavior. Hmm. make configurable if for actions. Anything else to note? Otherwise, to summarize the points, so would you agree that increasing the dots is a good step? What is the current proposed solution?
I think it would be more visible if you put a kind of a circle around them
Yeah, that would be the next
instead of
point,
dot.
the point. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to ask first if basically the suggestion on the issue would be agreed to, or in the next question then should we suggest an additional, yeah, like you said, a border around that more actions button?
Since I suggested it, I think we should recommend.
Right. So the recommendation would be A, agree to the increase of the dots, of the dot size, as well as add some sort of border around that more actions button. Increase dots and add button border. And Thomas and Nick, what are your thoughts in that regard?
Sorry, I was muted. I don't have a strong opinion here. I
Okay.
think the recommendation makes sense.
Yeah, I don't have a strong recommendation either.
Okay. And in regard of those local tasks, should it be configurable or should be the recommendation simply in the context of the admin UI display local tasks as local tasks and not moving them into more actions? And if there are no options for the more actions, then hide that button.
I'm not a
Say,
huge fan of hiding buttons, but it's probably best.
Yeah, but
yeah, the
basically,
problem is you don't know how many there are um, on the admin side. So what I typically, I, I don't know how relevant this is, but what I usually do for my clients is I have a custom module that takes all the local tasks and pins them to the bottom of the page so that they're always in the same place and they're always visible, and then you can dismiss them. So, because one of my this kind of solves one of my pet peeves, which is that on every page the local tasks are always in it. Like you have to scroll to get to them. Like they're not always in a consistent place. Although I haven't been releasing the navigation module for my clients yet. Um I just haven't quite gotten to the point where I'm ready for that. Um, but I think having the local tasks in a consistent place is really important. And I think making it so that they're not hidden behind something unless you want to hide them also um, also is important. But I don't know if that's in scope of this issue. So, like I said, for my clients, I always put it at the bottom of the page. It's sticky, and you can dismiss it if you want to see everything.
Uh, For your clients, you basically have basically the local task down here
Yeah,
or
not on the admin
position
side,
absolute
on the front end theme. So if you're on
on
a
on
page
the
that,
okay.
yeah, if you're on a page like edit, view, translate, all that is always at the it's always at the bottom in a bar, and then there's like a little toggle icon on the far left to click to hide it. So, because like if you want to edit this page, you now have to scroll up and find where it is in the main theme. But
Okay.
with the way that I do it, it's always at the bottom. Like no matter where you are, it's just always at the bottom.
Okay. No, I get it.
Yeah.
But like I
This
said,
not
I don't
maybe.
know if that's really in scope for this particular issue.
Yeah. Yeah. When things are sticky at the bottom, it's always just a reminder to keep it so that you can configure the offsets so that you don't end up with chatbots and accessibility tools and other
Yeah,
admin items on top of each other.
I don't do that because like I really should. It's been on my list to do forever. I just haven't gotten to it. But yeah, thank you. Maybe I can take another look at that.
But from that perspective, what are you trying to avoid, Nick? The top bar sort of fixes that because you basically have your edit button. That way you get to editing that node, and as well as you have basically the local task still available in context. But
Yeah.
in
Let
here
me
on the admin I consider it counterproductive. And there I think being consistent with the rest
yeah,
of the pages and having local tasks would be the better choice. That is from my perspective. And also was my understanding that the plan simply was to hide or move the local task for the front end to the top bar because of theming reasons. But
yeah,
for the admin UI, it doesn't make sense. And without those local tasks, there is no option for the more actions button. You
yeah.
don't need it on here. And that would solve a lot of problems.
That makes sense. Yeah, I just don't have enough familiarity, I think, with navigation to really I really should start using it more myself.
It has a few definitely a few good points, but the top bar is still, from my perspective, a work in progress and has a few problems. But from my perspective, the more actions should be reserved for actual CTAs and not navigation.
Okay.
Okay. So to summarize, increase dot size is okay, what the issue creator proposed, but also to add a button border is the one recommendation, and the other, do we have a consensus to move those out in the admin UI into local tasks again?
I I would prefer that. I don't like having extra clicks, and I don't think it takes up that much space vertically. Um, but I do recognize that my opinion on this particular matter differs, I think, from the wider community. So I wouldn't make that wouldn't be a hard stance for me.
Yeah, but at least the point again, it was Simo who made it is basically those local tasks also provide context for the user. You can directly see if basically a node supports revisions,
Yeah.
if it supports translations, and that way it's one click away. And you can always have the oversight and not notice and forget that there is the more actions button in the current
Yeah.
state, and therefore, and also those local tasks are in context exactly aligned with basically the node edit form. That's another plus.
I agree. Yeah. I think that makes sense.
Then there is the other context of how it works with Canvas. So does Canvas have those? Maybe it doesn't, or so that I think there will be some discussion by the community about how this relates to Canvas.
No idea, to be honest. Haven't looked at Canvas in a while.
I just last week I installed the Drupal CMS 2.0 and it has Canvas, and I tested it. First installation failed because of some of the steps how I put in language support, but then I got it working, so it's kind of interesting. But I think it will come
That's
up
one way to put
sooner
it.
or later.
Amos does a lot of interesting things.
Indeed.
I mean, it's powerful. I think it's a good thing, but interesting should be its tagline. Every time I open the code base, I go, huh, interesting.
Yep. A few opinionated choices there.
Yeah. I, and they just do things that like they're the only known instance of using theme engines in the past 15 years. Although they managed to factor that out and they didn't actually need it. But yeah.
Oof. Yeah, we'll see. We will see. Okay, doc, we are already 3 minutes over the hour. Thank you very much. And we'll hopefully see next week again. And wish you a relaxed weekend, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good day, guys.
Likewise. And
Thanks.
bye bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.